Here's something I've never fully understood about Fallout fans. We will spend 300 hours modding Fallout 4 to make it more immersive, more realistic, more survival-focused, and then completely ignore a game that shipped with all of that already built in. Metro Exodus has been sitting there since 2019. It's sold over 10 million copies. It gets recommended in every single games like Fallout thread on the internet, and somehow a significant chunk of Fallout fans have still never played it. I was one of those people for a long time. It kept ending up on my list and never at the top of it. When Fallout players say, "I'll get to Metro Exodus," it's apparently in the same way that people say they'll start going to the gym, indefinitely, optimistically, and without actually doing it, so I played it. And I need to talk about it. Not to tell you it's a perfect game, because it's absolutely not, but because if you're a Fallout fan who keeps putting it off, you're leaving one of the most affecting post-apocalyptic experiences of the last decade, collecting dust on your shelf. Here's what you're actually getting into. Metro Exodus is the third game in a series, and that trips people up. Here's the short version of what you need to know going in. The Metro series is set in post-nuclear Russia, not retro-futuristic America, with vault boys and bottle caps. Russia, after nuclear war, survivors retreated into the Moscow metro system, the underground tunnels, where they've spent years divided into factions, fighting over resources and occasionally venturing to the irradiated surface to get eaten by mutants. You play as Artyom. He's been living in the metro his whole adult life, convinced there must be other survivors somewhere beyond Moscow. In the opening of Exodus, it turns out he's right. The Metro authorities knew about the outside world and suppressed the information. Artyom and a small group of Spartan Rangers escape Moscow on a steam locomotive called the Aurora and spend the rest of the game crossing post-apocalyptic Russia, looking for somewhere to actually live. You don't need to have played Metro 2033 or Last Light to follow what's happening. The game catches you up. But knowing this context can help you appreciate why leaving Moscow feels like such a big deal. These are people who have spent their entire lives underground, and suddenly they're looking at a sky for the first time. The Aurora, the best base in any post-apocalyptic game. The train is the heart of Metro Exodus, and I don't think it gets enough credit. In Fallout 4, your settlements are places you build and then occasionally visit to fix a generator. The Aurora is a home. Your crew lives on it. They have actual relationships, ongoing conversations, private moments. Stepan plays guitar by the fire. Duke obsesses over finding a woman to settle down with. Miller, the gruff commander who distrusts Artyom for most of the game, has reasons for being the way he is that slowly reveal themselves over time. Anna is Artyom's wife, and she's the best written relationship in any post-apocalyptic game I've ever played. Not because the writing is flawless, it isn't, but because the game actually bothers to show you what their marriage looks like in a world that ended. Small moments. The way she talks to him, what she's afraid of, what she wants that she's not sure she'll ever get. When something happens to Anna later in the game, it hits in a way that no companion death in Fallout has ever quite managed, because you actually know her by that point. The crew of the Aurora are the reason you keep moving forward. Not the loot, not the faction politics, the people on that train. The world, better than you expect, more punishing than you're ready for. Metro Exodus structures itself like an accordion. Tight linear sections punctuated by large semi-open regions that you explore at your own pace. The Volga River region is your first taste of it. A massive frozen landscape with a river running through it and a cult that worships giant catfish operating on one bank. The Caspian Desert comes later and feels completely different, open, sun-blasted, with slavers running the show from a converted oil tanker. Then a lush forest region that is beautiful on the surface and deeply wrong underneath it. Each region has its own tone, its own ecosystem, its own faction with its own history. The environmental storytelling is as good as anything Bethesda has produced. You find notes, journals, audio logs. You walk into locations and piece together what happened to the people who used to live there from the physical evidence left behind. There's a specific location in the Caspian region, I won't spoil it, where you find out what happened to a group of survivors through nothing but the arrangement of objects in a room, There are no cutscenes or journal entries, it's just the room and your detective skills. The survival mechanics. This is where Metro Exodus truly shines. This is where the game separates itself from Fallout most clearly, and where Fallout fans who've been modding survival mechanics into their games for years will feel most at home. Your gas mask filters run out. Not in a theoretical, abstract way, in a very real, very immediate way where you hear a beeping sound that gets progressively faster as the timer runs down, and if you don't find a new filter in time, Artyom suffocates. There are sections of the game where filters are genuinely scarce, and you find yourself rationing how long you spend in contaminated areas, calculating whether you have enough filter time to explore that building, or whether you need to head back. It's the kind of mechanic that creates tension without announcing itself. You're not staring at a UI element telling you to find filters, you're just increasingly anxious. The gas mask also gets physically cracked and dirty during combat and exploration. You have to manually wipe it to see clearly, which in the middle of a firefight with mutants is about as fun as it sounds. Take enough damage and the mask cracks entirely, which you need to repair at a workbench. These aren't inconveniences bolted onto the game as difficulty modifiers. They're part of how the world communicates that surviving in it costs something. Your weapons degrade as you use them, don't clean them regularly, and they jam at critical moments, mid-fight, mid-chase, exactly when you need them most. Cleaning your gun requires finding a safe spot and taking the time to do it, which means the question of when to maintain your equipment becomes a genuine tactical decision rather than a menu interaction. The crafting system runs on a single resource: chemicals. Chemicals are used for everything: crafting medkits, crafting ammunition, cleaning your weapons, repairing your mask. This means every scavenging run is a series of small decisions. Do I use these chemicals to make bullets or medkits? If I make bullets now, what happens when I take damage in the next encounter and I have nothing to heal with? If I make medkits, what do I shoot people with? In Fallout 4, resources feel abundant enough that you rarely face this kind of genuine dilemma. In Metro Exodus, I found myself making these decisions constantly, sometimes anxiously, sometimes getting it wrong. That feeling of getting it wrong, of realizing you chose wrong 20 minutes ago and now you're paying for it, is what survival games are supposed to produce and what most of them don't actually deliver. There's also a karma system, but unlike Fallout's explicit good-evil meter, Metro Exodus doesn't announce it, it simply watches how you play. More on that in a moment. Let's talk about where Metro Exodus is different from Fallout. The honest comparison. Metro Exodus is not an RPG. This is the single most important thing I can tell you, because if you go in expecting New Vegas, you're going to be confused and disappointed. There are no dialogue trees, no skill checks, no build variety, no faction politics where you play 3 sides against each other and make a calculated final decision. You are Artyom, and Artyom does what the story needs him to do. You don't choose whether to be a stealth character or a guns character or a speech character. The game has one protagonist with one set of abilities, and you work with what you've got. Artyom also doesn't speak in conversations at all, which is one of the game's most genuinely frustrating decisions. He's a silent protagonist, except he isn't, because he narrates during loading screens in a voice that's clearly thoughtful and articulate. He just refuses to use that voice when talking to actual people. His wife will ask him a direct question. He will stare at her. She will eventually say something like, "I see you're not in the mood to talk," and move on. It's jarring in a way that the earlier Metro games got away with because those games put Artyom in fewer intimate situations. Exodus constantly puts him in exactly the kind of scenes where a person should say something and he says nothing. It undermines moments that should hit harder than they do. The AI is also inconsistent in ways that will occasionally make you furious. Stealth sections can feel tense and precise in one encounter, completely arbitrary in the next. Enemies will spot you from an implausible distance in one situation and fail to notice you standing 3 feet away in another. There's no reliable logic to it, which means stealth never feels fully under your control. You're partially playing skill and partially rolling dice. The structure of the game also constrains you in ways Fallout fans might find frustrating. Each region is self-contained. Once you leave it, you don't come back. The world isn't one interconnected playground you can revisit, it's a series of connected chapters, and when a chapter ends, it ends. If you missed something in the Volga, it's gone, and the English voice acting ranges from serviceable to actively bad, depending on which character is speaking. If you have the option to play in Russian with subtitles, play in Russian with subtitles. The game was made by a Ukrainian studio, and the original language audio is noticeably more convincing. The karma system, how Metro rewards the way you play. Metro Exodus doesn't announce its moral system. There's no pop-up telling you you've earned humanity points, no slider moving between good and evil. It just quietly tracks how you move through the world across the entire game. Did you kill the bandits when you could have sneaked past them? Did you spare the cultists when they surrendered? Did you take the time to find the little girl's lost teddy bear and leave it somewhere she'd find it? Did you stop to listen to the NPCs who wanted to talk, rather than running past them to the next objective? Did you help the wounded stranger you found in the wilderness, or did you loot his body and move on? These things accumulate invisibly. They change how NPCs interact with you in subtle ways. They determine which of the game's two endings you receive, and the difference between the endings is significant enough that getting the wrong one feels genuinely meaningful, rather than just a different cutscene. It's not as mechanically deep as New Vegas's faction system. You can't play multiple sides against each other. You can't negotiate separately with the Volga cultists and the Caspian slavers and then betray both of them at the last minute. The moral texture is simpler than that, but it rewards the instinct that good RPGs are supposed to reward. The instinct to engage with the world rather than use it as a backdrop. Fallout fans who play carefully, who read every note and listen to every NPC, will naturally trend toward the better ending without trying, and that feels right. The DLC, is it worth your time? Metro Exodus has 2 expansions, and both of them are genuinely good, which puts them in a relatively exclusive club for post-apocalyptic game DLC. The Two Colonels is a linear story set in a Metro outpost called Yamantau, told in flashback. It follows a different character, Colonel Kalashnikov, as he tries to keep his sons safe during the collapse of their community. It's shorter than the main game and significantly more claustrophobic, returning to the underground tunnel atmosphere of the earlier Metro games. For players who felt the main game's open regions lost some of the original Metro tension, The Two Colonels is the antidote. It's dark, it's focused, and it ends in a way that recontextualizes something you saw in the main game. Sam's story is the larger of the 2 expansions and follows Sam, an American soldier who was stationed in Russia when the bombs dropped and has spent the years since trying to find a way home. He ends up in Vladivostok, which gives the expansion a completely different visual setting from the main game, a port city on the Pacific, half submerged, overgrown, and occupied by its own factions with their own problems. Sam is a voiced protagonist, which immediately makes his characterization more effective than Artyom's, and his motivation, just trying to get home, is simple enough to be universally relatable. If you play Metro Exodus and want more, both expansions are worth the time. If you're buying the complete edition, which is usually available for a fraction of the original price at this point, you're getting a substantial amount of post-apocalyptic content for very little money. Should you play it? Yes, with one honest caveat: go in knowing what it is. It's a story-driven first-person survival game with exceptional atmosphere, one of the best-written casts in post-apocalyptic gaming, and survival mechanics that actually make survival feel like survival. It's not a role-playing game in the Fallout sense. It won't give you faction complexity or build variety or branching dialogue. Artyom will frustrate you with his silence. The AI will frustrate you with its inconsistency. The English voice acting will frustrate you at regular intervals. But when Metro Exodus works, and it works more often than it doesn't, it does things that Fallout has never managed. The emotional weight of the Aurora crew, the environmental storytelling that trusts you to be curious, the survival mechanics that make every bullet a decision, and an ending that, depending on how you've been playing all game, might genuinely hit you somewhere uncomfortable. Fallout's post-apocalypse is a playground. Metro Exodus post-apocalypse feels like it actually happened. It's been on your list long enough. Go play it.